There are 7 characters on Unstable SMP who perfectly represent the 7 stages of grief, and some of these stages will genuinely shock you, just like stage 1, shock. And this is best shown by Parrot, who experiences shock constantly. A good example is when he discovered the Invisible Mafia's true scale. When the director revealed himself as wifies, he was stunned and paralyzed. Every twist leaves him frozen. His entire story is being shocked, and he can't act quickly when overwhelmed. Keep this pattern of being frozen by information in mind for later. After shock wears off comes stage 2, denial, and this is perfectly shown by Spokeishere. Denial is refusing to believe reality, avoiding the truth and pretending it's not happening. Spoke has this "it's fine" energy even when the server is collapsing. When the Mafia controlled everything, he kept saying it was manageable. When the server was falling apart, what did he do? He got a pet salmon named George Jr., literally denying reality through distraction. He denied the Mafia was as powerful as they were until forced to face it. He denied that exploits alone wouldn't save them. He potentially has the command blocks in Ender chest but refuses to acknowledge it. In almost every fight, Spoke runs away, literally running from the reality of his poor combat skills. Remember this denial pattern because it connects to something important later. But before we continue, I want to ask you to subscribe and drop a like on this video. These videos take hours to make, and subscribing would help a ton. Also, let me know down in the comments which grief stage you would be in. Now after denial comes something far more destructive, which is anger, and wemmbu is the perfect example. Anger is intense fury at the situation, lashing out at everyone, uncontrolled rage. Wemmbu is the perfect embodiment of anger. He went on an orbital strike rampage, destroyed multiple civilizations out of fury. He screams at everyone, at Jaden, at the law, at anyone who crosses him. He gets furious when others have maces. He's constantly threatening to destroy people and actually does it. He killed 500 plus law players in one battle, just massacring them out of anger. When Jaden tricked him, wemmbu annihilated his entire castle with orbital strikes. He destroyed Capital City. He destroyed the Lost Base. He destroyed the Zam Empire. Everywhere he goes, destruction follows. And here's what makes it tragic. All this rage stems from grief over losing Akechan. His best friend got trapped in the end because of wembu's actions. Instead of processing that loss healthily, wemmbu turned it into destructive wrath. But not everyone expresses grief through destruction. Some try to negotiate with reality itself. Stage 4, bargaining, and flamefrags represents this perfectly. Bargaining is that if only thinking, trying to negotiate, seeking any way to undo or fix things. Flamefrag's entire arc is bargaining. If only I was stronger, everything would be okay. That's why he went on a training arc. He literally bargained with its real me in order to get trained to become the best. When Swipe was sent to assassinate him, Flame bargained for his life by offering gear. He participates in tournaments thinking, if I win this, I'll prove I'm the strongest. He constantly tries to prove his worth through combat. He burns maces repeatedly because he's bargaining with skill itself. If only people would fight with real skill, I'd be recognized. He changed his armor trim from diamond to redstone, physical representation of bargaining with his identity. He created the Arbol Dark Cannon thinking, if only I had an advantage like others have. His entire existence is trying to negotiate terms with reality where his strength is finally enough. But eventually when shock fades, denial breaks, anger burns out, and bargaining fails, you're left with something darker. Stage 5, depression. And this is where Marlowe comes in. Depression is deep sadness, overwhelming loneliness, feeling empty and hopeless. Marlowe wrote this in her books. I'm only pretending to be a monster to scare people away, but recently I've started to believe that maybe I really am a monster. That's not anger, that's depression talking. When you've internalized the pain so deeply you believe the worst about yourself. Marlowe is forced into isolation in the far end, guarding the Mafia tomb completely alone. Ultimate loneliness. She desperately wishes to see her best friend again. Deep sadness over their separation. She kills people she doesn't want to kill. Trapped in a cycle of violence she hates but can't escape. She rarely speaks. Her silence reflects depression. She hated being in the Mafia because everyone had to stay invisible. She couldn't see anyone's real faces including her friends, and here's the hopeless part. If she leaves the tomb, thousands die from rigged stasis chambers. No escape from this prison. She writes books full of feelings. Books number 1, 35, and 66. Just to cope with overwhelming sadness. sadness. Marlowe is the saddest character, the world's best fighter trapped in endless depression with no way out. Keep this hopeless isolation in mind because it represents the lowest point before people try to move forward. But unlike Danger Marlowe, some people eventually start experimenting with new approaches. Stage 6. Testing. And Lettucek represents this perfectly. Testing is trying new approaches, experimenting with solutions, testing what works in this new reality. Lettucek built an entirely new system from nothing. He created the law to test what brings order. He implemented a redemption program testing if criminals can be reformed. He literally says, I offered them a second chance. Experimenting with giving people opportunities. He built an elaborate prison system testing new justice structures. He uses different strategies per opponent. Weakness arrows for flamefrags, traps for others. Constantly testing approaches. He tested becoming the leader to see if he could actually lead. The 1,000 player army was a massive test of whether mass numbers overcome skill. He built an arbow strike cannon testing new weapons. He tested public executions like with Spectacle to see if fear-based control worked. Every single thing Lettuce does is testing a hypothesis. At this point, bro, he might as well be my physics teacher, dog. He's constantly experimenting with new systems, new approaches, new ideas to see what sticks. Remember this experimentation pattern because testing is how people try to regain control after losing everything. But there's one final stage beyond testing. Stage 7. Acceptance. And It's Real Me represents this completely. Acceptance is accepting the new reality, finding peace with what happened, moving forward with purpose. It's Real Me retired from fighting even though he was unstoppable. He genuinely accepted he didn't need to prove anything anymore. He literally said, I was unstoppable and I'm done. Made peace with his power and chose to step back. He trained flamefrags instead of competing with him, accepting his role as a mentor rather than fighter. He's focused with no anger or need for validation. He's found inner peace. He blocks out distractions and streamlines his mission focus, clarity and purpose. When he took the director's assassination contract, he accepted what needed to be done without emotion. No anger, no joy, just acceptance of the task. He almost killed Parrot multiple times without emotional investment, just calm acceptance of his job. He's mastered the zone in combat, that flow state where you've transcended normal emotional reactions. It's Real Me represents acceptance in its purest form. He's moved beyond all other grief stages to find genuine peace. He's the enlightened warrior who has nothing left to prove. But what if I told you that these 7 stages don't just represent individual characters? Well, they represent the unstable SMP itself. This hardcore server is a grief machine. You start in shock when you first experience the brutality. You move into denial, trying to pretend it's not that bad. You explode into anger when denial fails. You bargain, trying to make deals with reality. You sink into depression when bargaining fails. You start testing new approaches to survive. And if you're lucky, you reach acceptance. But here's the catch. Most players never make it to acceptance like It's Real Me did. Parrot is stuck in shock, frozen by revelations. Spoke is trapped in denial, running from reality. Wemmbu is consumed by anger that never ends. Flamefrags is locked in internal bargaining, always proving himself. Marlowe is drowning in depression with no escape. Even Lettuce in testing eventually failed and got imprisoned. The server doesn't let people heal, it keeps them trapped in the grief stages forever. The only person who achieved acceptance did so by retiring completely. That's the dark truth. Grief on this server doesn't end. It just cycles through stages eternally until you break or quit entirely. The unstable SMP isn't a hardcore Minecraft server. It's a machine that traumatizes players and prevents them from processing that trauma. It builds shock, feeds denial and anger, fuels bargaining, depression, and desperate testing. But at the end of the day, on the world's largest hardcore server where everyone has just one life, players will do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means staying trapped in grief forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I promise you'll like the video on screen. Anyways, goodbye!